right, all right. So remember, keep that name in your head, Howard Thurman. But anyway, when I was at these bookstores, it was crazy because they had every book in history, and I started picking up books of ministers that I never heard of, like Howard Thurman, you know, and I started seeing who this brother was. I don't want to stay too hard on it, because I got so much information, but I'll give a little intro of who this brother is. He wrote a book called In the Temptations of Jesus. Howard Thurman takes us to the wilderness. With Jesus, we face the tempters, challenges. We rejoice in the choices Jesus makes in his instances on doing God's will, and we pray for his guidance as we face the dilemmas of our own lives. At the time of his death in 1981, Howard Thurman was Dean Emeritus of Marsh Chapel, Boston University, and chairman of the board of trustees of the Howard Thurman Educational Trust in San Francisco. So let me just start right there. So when I was in this bookstore, I promise you, the owner of the bookstore sat me down. I was in there for about 3 hours. I was telling him what I do. He was like, "Sir, son, you special." He was like, "Don't stop what you're doing." He was like, "You're just like Howard Thurman." He was like, "You just like he was like, you ever heard of the brother that took over after Malcolm?" I said, "Vernon Johns." He like, "Yes." Started giving me so many books. He was like, "You have to keep going no matter what it is." He said, "You have to keep going." But make a long story short, let's proceed. He also served as Dean of Rankin Chapel. Dean of Rankin Chapel, Howard University, Washington, D.C., as professor at Howard University School of Religion, and as director of religious life at Morehouse and Spelman, Atlanta. Founder of the church for the Fellowship of All People in San Francisco, the first interracial, interdenominational church in the United States. He was honorary canon of the Cathedral of St. John, the Divine, New York City. Listen to his accolades, Noble. Listen clearly. When you say, "What, he just some type of preacher?" Listen to this. Poet, mystic. I stop right there. Poet, mystic, philosopher, theologian. Dr. Thurman authored more than 20 books, including Meditations of the Heart, The Inward Journey, Jesus and the Disinherited, The Centered Moment, The Creative Encounter, The Search for Common Ground, and With Head and Heart, his autobiography. So, do you tell me of that introduction? Do you think this man was teaching and preaching some get on your knees gospel? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is what I'm saying. This is the ones when you say it's quality. These are the ones, myself and others, when you look in history, when you don't know about, because a lot of our figures be given to us, and a lot of our figures that was given to us couldn't even carry these figures' shoes. They would be they would have to be in the staff, and a lot of our figures was given to us. And that's why a lot of our brothers, they diss education. They diss wisdom and think wisdom is some European wisdom. And I say that's crazy, because the first university was in Salamanca in Spain, in Timbuktu. What are you talking about?
And Sheik, I don't know if so much that they diss wisdom. I think they diss people that don't jump through the hoops. Mm-hmm. Like Noble Drew Ali said, like they do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. And because there's so many people who made that commitment to jump through the hoops, they're all committed to, sticking together.
Mm-hmm. Islam. And that's so prophetic, Noble Lamar, because now, as I break this down, I just told you about Howard Thurman and Vernon Johns, and I'm going to talk about another brother. They all stuck together. They was preachers, they was teachers, they understood it, they were mystics, just like C. Freeman L., just like with Bobby Hemmett, just like with Malcolm, and with the brother that did the documentary "I'm Not Your Negro." uh, 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 James Baldwin. I mean,
James Baldwin.
yeah.
James Baldwin.
And even though his sexual preference, Malcolm didn't shun him. Malcolm knew he was a brilliant mind. People was together. That's why I said, man.
Well, it's always been that way, though, right? Like,
yes.
You talk about it all the time. Like, even in the church, right? You have the church, but then even in that, you got the deacon board, you got the sisters. You know what I mean? You got the mother's board, you got the ushers, you got all these different. I mean, if you really want to extrapolate it, all these different groups within groups. You know what I mean? That make up the body, and you could also say each of them have unique or mystic or institutional knowledge that the other ones don't, right? When you on the usher board, you learn things about being an usher and stuff like that other people don't, and so in the same way we're doing that here, as a body, as well.
Islam. That's why I said it's an opening of the mind. I had a pleasure when people asked me about my academic endeavor. I said, man, I had a joy of going to university. Why? Because I wasn't going to prove nothing wrong. I was going to prove myself right. I wasn't going to prove nobody wrong. It wasn't nothing to prove wrong, Nobles. I was going to prove myself right with what I understood. And I knew I can find it. And I was in the right place. That's why I speak freely. I say I have a degree in what I'm speaking on. Not to make me better, but I have a certain aptitude. My brain is wired in a certain way. It's certain words that I've researched. It's a certain way and language that I understand. I understand hermeneutics. I understand linguistics. I understand cross-referencing. I understand time periods and how words was written and how they were changed and how they were rewritten. I understand linguistics. And so it takes all that to be able to put biblical understanding in the right perspective, from an unbiased perspective, because that's what this is about. Because it's only one science. It's only one teaching. So Vernon Johns, he was born 1892, 1965. And when I be teaching this to a lot of the misnomer African-American students at GCU, this stuff blew their mind. They was asking why they teachers got them studying some Willie Lynch, Nobles, and that was a required reading. I did a whole oral dissertation, and the professors couldn't say nothing. I said, I don't know why professors have these children read some Willie Lynch, and I told them they was all fake. Professor couldn't say nothing. I said, if it was a Willie Lynch letter, it'd be in the Library of Congress. Prove me wrong. Couldn't say nothing. I said the language was off, the time was off, the way the words were spelled was off. Couldn't say nothing. All propaganda. And that's what I'm saying. It ain't nobody else doing this. It's us doing that to us. And so when we able to teach from love, we can see all the great things that we did all through history. And we have to tell our story. We have to be able to be okay with our educators and our teachers and our ministers teaching our people, and people jumping behind that. Why? Because that's what we're supposed to do. Communities send people like myself and others to say, okay, we're going to send such and such to the university to come back and do this and do this and do that and do that. Why? That's what communities do. That's what families do. So he was considered by some as the father of the American Civil Rights Movement, having laid the foundation on which Martin Luther King Jr. and others would build. Johns was courageous and vocal opponent of segregation. In 1926, he was the first African American to have his work published in Best Sermons of the Year. This was a personal triumph for Johns, as he had repeatedly submitted sermons of consideration in previous years. He was Dr. King's predecessor. Did everybody know that? As pastor at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama from 1947 to 1952. And a mentor of Ralph Abernathy. I hope everybody know who that is. Wyatt Walker. I hope the people research these names and many others in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Johns was irritated that theological liberals failed to include any works by blacks in their annual book of best sermons. He sent the theologians in charge of the book several sermons by Mordecai. Y'all know who Mordecai Johnson is. Research who Mordecai Johnson is, brothers and sisters. President of Howard University, and Howard Thurman. Who is Howard Thurman? The brother I was just telling y'all. right here. An internationally known mystic, theologian, just like all those elder people at those bookstores saying, but you him today. He was like, you walk, they were like, but the wisdom did, but you are that right now. And I say, I understand the work that we must do, because back then this was understanding who we are and having our own school and teachers and support something that was real and spreading it amongst us community and understanding how these things work. That's how things were spread. That's how we became wise. That's how we own communities. You think Black Wall Street, it was just a group of whole bunch of ignorant, uneducated Negroes? Absolutely not. It was a plethora of people. Somebody had to say, hey man, we're going to follow this. Why? Because we've been doing all this for so long, giving stuff away and just wasting to where we should get behind something that's real. That's been proven. These were rejected. John sat down and wrote out his own sermon, and it was Transfigured Moments. The publication of the article came about this way. Powell, 1995.13. I wrote the publishers of the collecting of the material. And so what he did, he asked why no brothers, would get published, But make a long story short, he ended up getting, some of his work published. So I just want y'all, I was just setting that precedent to see what was going on in those times. How brothers were speaking on who they are. And they might not have had the right science. They might not have knew the right words, just like the book, the word Negro and its evil uses. How when you read it, the brothers was doing what they could do in their time period. And that's what I'm telling people. Like a lot of times you got to give people enough, how can I say, credit to be courageous enough to even speak about certain things and give you the idea to say, go do some research and see that's what they were saying. See, that's what we're supposed to be doing today. We're supposed to be adding on, not looking for all the answers from our forefathers and foremothers, because they've done enough for us. They got us here. It's some work that we got to do. And we are adding value to. You see what they were saying. You just like our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, just like the Black Hitler of Harlem, just like all those brothers was telling you who you are. Just like even when Malcolm knew when he met Pio Gio Pinto, when he met that brother, and they was like, wait a minute, we got to go on some international thing. This black thing ain't it. You see, this is what we have to do as a people. It's way bigger than this. And when you start seeing the historicalness of you and I, it'll blow your mind. So I want to give a quick little sermon of what our brother of Vernon Johns, and it was titled, "It Is Safe to Murder Negroes." And this how he was speaking back then. And now think about today and see, does this still resonate today? This sermon was delivered by Reverend Vernon Johns, pastor of Montgomery Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. He immediately preceded Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. King Jr. Johns was an alumni of Virginia Seminary and Collegiate Institute, now known as Virginia University of Lynchburg. For a time, he served as the president of the college. I just want to remind you what the clearest and simplest of these great 10 commandments is. Thou shalt not kill. The Birmingham paper says that you have a better chance in 1948 of being murdered in Alabama than anywhere in the USA. A lot of people doing the killing are the police officers who should know the law as well as anybody. The officer, Oris Thras, killed Amos Starr for resisting arrest, shot him in the back, so I guess he was resisting while running away. And right here in Montgomery, 2 police officers took a man, handcuffed him to a tree, and beat him. Didn't kill him, though. They got charged with assault just 2 weeks ago. Another Montgomery policeman got it right. He shot and killed one Henry Lee for resisting arrest. The coroner ruled it justifiable homicide. All of these cases were justifiable homicide. But there is no justifiable homicide. Why? God never spoke about justifiable homicide. He said, thou shalt not kill. He didn't say thou shalt not kill unless you got an excuse. He didn't say, thou shalt not kill unless you are a police officer. And he most assuredly didn't say, thou shalt not kill unless you are a European or Albion or a Troglodyte per se. And last week, I'm just quoting the teaching, a European Albion Troglodyte white, I'm just giving you all the definitions, was found for shooting a rabbit out of season. But of course, it's safer to murder Negroes. A rabbit is better off than a Negro because in Alabama, NIGGERSs are always in season. What would God have said if he had locked down upon us last week here in Montgomery? A Negro man was stopped by a trooper for speeding and brutally beaten with a tire iron while other Negroes stood by and did nothing. What would God have said when he took down and saw an enraged police officer take up a young colored boy and use his head as a battering ram when the boy's father said nothing, did nothing? I'll tell you why it's safe to murder Negroes, because Negroes stand by and let it happen. Do you know what occurred to me as I watched the cross burning in front of the church? Question mark. When the Klan burns a cross, it's a message. The next step is lynching. As I watched the cross, it occurred to me that we call the crucifixion is just that, a lynching. Isn't it ironic? Question. Everything we worship was made possible by a lynching. Because at the ultimate moment of death, Jesus spoke of the words that transformed a lynching into the crucifixion. That made Jesus what? The Redeemer, not the condemner. Think about it. Jesus said, Father, forgive them. Why? For they know not what they do. But you know what you do. And the European Albion Troglodyte white officers, whatever you want to call it, who are free day after day to murder the misnomer Negroes, know what they do. And when you stand by and watch your brothers and sisters being lynched, it's as if stood by while Christ was being crucified. And that was his sermon back then. Isn't that ironic? Some of that stuff is relevant today, my brothers and sisters. Isn't that ironic? It's ironic, isn't it? I want to give y'all two little references before we go out of two books. The first one is going to be The Negro Question, Part 4, The Missing Link by Lee Cummings. And another one is going to be The 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro. I just want to hit a couple bullets and we out of here. Because today I want to give you some history to open your mind. Because we talk about this so-called spirituality or this religion, whatever you want to put it under. I call it sciences of the arts. You know, man, once we understand who we are, we have to start understanding some other stuff. Because like Noble Lamarck said, we are in the flesh. We have to master some of the things. That's why it says you don't curse a rich man. Ecclesiastes, what is it? Chapter 10, verse 19. Come on. Wine is made for laughter, but money trumps all. Ain't nothing wrong with having no money. Nothing. Why shouldn't you have none? Tell me why. If a person can scam to get some money and you righteous and you do righteous things, why you can't have a bag? Tell me why you can't. I'll wait. Oh, well, you know I want to be. Well, that's you. That don't make you righteous because you don't have nothing. So I want to give you a clear eyewitness of what the first writer was writing in the first century, so you can get an idea or a clear picture of what the first century writer was writing, and they didn't have a problem with giving you a reference of not only what was back then, but what they saw. So in the first chapter is eyewitness period. It was an Irish priest. It was Saint Brendan, the navigator, the Irish priest from Ireland. So number one, when people be saying, this is how they get themselves caught up. They say they weren't African, but they were black. And I say, one, you wrong at that, because you can't call nobody in first century or ancient times black. Why? Because black was never used to describe ethnicity in the first century. So when you try to play that linguistic apartheid game, you done there. or they weren't African, they were black. Nobody in first century identified as black. So when we deal with the ancient and modern Britons, when we deal with the Russian icons, we got to use the right vernacular. What's going on in Germany and Ireland and Britain, as David McRitchie called them, the ancient and modern Britons. I want us to understand this important part of Sunday school today, this educational part of Sunday school, especially for the children that might be around. We got to stop letting people telling us we all came over here on some boat or some slaves and history. That's a lie. No scholar, no educator will not even take the time to sit down and have a clear conversation about some transatlantic slave trade. Why? Because the first century writers are going to say that your misnomer black brothers in African American studies is lying to you. And it's already written. And if anybody get on here and say it's true, they have a motive, which is to not tell you the truth. So this little black Welshman, Scott, Celt, settled in France, Guernsey of the Canary Islands, France, Ireland, Spain, and the British Islands, and all over Europe. This little black Welshman, Professor Winchell Alexander, our remote ancestry, 1815, 1900, collection of the journals. These short black men came from Atlantis, Northern Africa, and they overran Europe. They were known as Britons, the ancient and modern Britons. So when you see all those, what get me perturbed is when our own people get caught up in some fake Anunnaki and some fake alien stuff. I said, man, why do we always get caught up with some fake Anunnaki and alien, and that ain't nothing but the Iberians? And historians is laughing at our people, and we dealing with pseudoscience. And that's Zachariah Stinson pseudoscience. It's no disrespect to nobody. It's just facts. If you an educator, you know, Roman history Tacticus, the Roman historian Tacticus, the origins of the Black Britons, the Iberians are black people with curly hair. Anthropological Review, Society London, Volume 8. I already showed y'all the pictures of all the first century history when I look in the text stream of how they whitewashed the pictures, how you see all those people that they looked a certain color and which they were, and then they rewrote the history and they were modern. They tell on themselves when you look at the pictures. Hell, you can get in reading Maccabees and they show you how the Gentile tried to whitewash themselves in the history books, the same way Russian icon tell you. There ain't no secret. People can't get mad at what I'm saying. Hell, cause I got a whole bunch of old books, and nobody can be upset of nothing I'm saying. What I be telling my misnomer African American brothers and sisters, I say you have no idea. You have no idea. When I show y'all King James, you know, the 6th and the 1st, and what was being said in those time periods. Historically, what was really going on. We be like, well, what history was talking about? Well, we know what history was talking about. The life of Mary Stuart. When we break things down, when we show you how things were whitewashed, it's proof. I did this in academia. Got videos of it. Joseph Ritson, Annals of Caledonian Picts and the Scots, Volume 2, page 7 and 27. The Picts, the Britons, are brown complexion with curly hair, and you start seeing all these modern pictures of all these first century people with have no disrespect, whitewashed. And then when I show you this, and I show you ancient pictures, and I show you the modern pictures, and then people still be with the cap and still be with the lies. I said that's sad. That tell you the psychosis of people, that how hard they work so hard to keep you, to say you done nothing in history. Ivan van Sertima, African president in early Europe. Hell, they even try to diss Sheikh Anta Diop, which is one of the most prolific scholars in our time period, but they can't. The Britons look like the Ethiopians. Albert Churchward. See, here go Albert Churchward with the, and I give even Gerald Massey, but Albert Churchward, he wrote the book Science and Symbols of the Primordial Man. But Albert Churchward, in one of his books, 1912, The Origins and Evolutions. I think I sent that to y'all. Y'all should have that. Pages 12 to 13. The Black Bisquis were exterminated. If y'all don't got all these books, nobles, let me know, because I think I sent these to y'all a while ago. If not, let me know. I'll make sure y'all get them. The Black Basque were exterminated from Europe. Professor Boyd Dawkins, our earliest ancestors, bygone days. A lecture delivered in the public hall, Cooleyhurst, Manchester. I'm showing you this. I did this before. The ancient Britons, Irish, Scots are a short black people. Page 103 to 107. Dr. Thurman, Nature Journal of Science. From the evidence at hand, it seems that the Iberian, aka the black man, occupied the whole of the Western Europe at one time. Didn't say he occupied the whole Africa. It said it occupied the whole Western Europe at one time. At one time. This Dr. Thurman, Nature Journal of Science. I know y'all know who Dr. Thurman is. Come on now. Okay. I'm telling you, we have brothers and ministers like myself and others, especially back then, that gave you the science like they did their work. Professor Huxley, 1870, the Iberian race, page 332. The Iberian, the Basque, the black bones have been found all over Europe with his animals. It said all over Europe with his animals. That's why I be telling my brothers that they hidden stuff from us. You got to tell me what they hidden from us. When people be saying, well, you Illuminati. I said, I ain't no Illuminati. Yeah, I'm enlightened. I'm your brother. I ain't took no oath. I'm initiated through the wisdom. I'm here to give it to you willingly. I got my hands open. What, like Jay-Z say, what more can I say? What more can I do? Now I just have to be an example. Because when the next level come, I know what people gravitate to. I already know it. I already know what people gravitate to. I already know it's coming. So be patient. You know, but so here it is. The brother Lee Cummins said that he inserted 8 English white historians to show you that our white brothers who wrote closer to the epic center didn't have a problem telling the truth about the original inhabitants of Europe, brothers and sisters. These Welshmen, what time is it? These Welshmen, Britain, Irishmen, all these people that they saying. Frenchmen, Russians, because y'all know Alex Pushkin was melanated. All you got to do is start research Mozart. You'll be like, man, Sheikh, how you know this? Because education, I was able to study in certain places. I study in the Royal Archives. I'm transparent with everybody on here. I don't have nothing to hide. I'm part of the Philosophical Research Society. I can go there anytime. I got information to a plethora of things. It's stuff I ain't even talked about yet because it ain't no reason. I'll be waiting for people just to come up here and make up something, and then I just throw little bullets out there to the world to say, we know you lying. You know? It's just what it is. Truth has no sides. The Swedes were in Europe thousands of years before the English arrived in 449 AD, and this will be proven by the writings of Professor Boyd Dawkins, professor of geology at Manchester University, London. Professor Boyd Dawkins was invited to speak, brothers and sisters, in the public hall in Manchester, January, in London, on the 18th, 1879. And he gave a lecture, and I gave y'all the information on that. He said the original people of Britain, France, Spain, England were short black men of 5 feet, 6 inches in height. Listen to this. See, people don't want to hear this, but we know what go viral? Our women half naked. Our brothers fighting each other. Talk about the Hebrews versus the Christian or such and such against Billy Carson. Man, we don't do those things. That's ungodly. When people be debating, I be laughing at these characters. I said, clearly you don't even understand the biblical scripture because the scripture says you don't debate nothing about the word. It ain't nothing to debate. You on TV debating scripture. That's asinine. You don't debate. That's like a challenge. That's like the Pantheon. That's what they did in the days when they threw you in the Pantheon, like Spartacus. Oh, that's all you are, getting the Pantheon. We ain't out here battling people over no wisdom like this, some Crips and Bloods. You know? But they were little black people of 5, 6 inches height. They were in England with our fathers, aka the white English, invaded the land in 449 AD. Our fathers were a warlike people who by 607 AD had pushed the Basque west into Wales. Listen to this, Moors. Cumberland, Westmoreland, the Highlands of Scotland and Devon. All you got to do is look up your family crest, your coat of arms, and then start tracing some things. And I'll show y'all the copied you. And then I just don't have to say that. I'll show you, literally. And these misnomer black people boasted that they were citizens of the Roman Empire. The Welsh or the ancient Britons were in possession before the Romans ever came here. And these black Biscaye, these Britons, have brought the knowledge of the iron and the bronze with them. The iron and the bronze technology will be proven perfectly when I show you the German tapestry. These people were herdsmen. They possessed the short horned ox, the horned sheep, the goat, the pig, and the horse. When me and Noble Moso was in a book club Friday, we was talking about things. Evidence of their civilization can be seen all over the continent of Europe, as well as throughout the British Islands, extending as far as Germany, Switzerland, and even to France and Spain. These black people originated from Iberian Peninsula and are a fragment of the old Spanish population. See, everybody talk about canceling Fat Joe because they say these Morinos or these Moriscos and all this, just like in Poland, they don't like a certain word, Moriscos and this. But see, I'm a Moor. I know that. And we can have things. What you wanted to say, black? Because in Spanish, negrito is black. So when I be telling people, I said, so what we gonna, how are we gonna do this? But that's a whole nother question. I'm just setting the precedent, brothers. I want y'all to have a clear eye. You know, one of the techniques that I would like to employ when detailing the research is you got to point to Professor Boyd Watkins. You know, he talked about the specimen of black Biscaye from different parts of Europe. He said if you lay them next to each other, you can't be able to tell one corpse from another, y'all. This is what he said. You know, it's showing you that the historians of the 18th and the 19th century family had no problem describing the blackness of the early Europeans. I didn't say the blackness of the early Africans. I said the blackness of the early Europeans. That's what I'm here to tell you. This is the shift to let you know that you can trace yourself all over the history. You were already here. Benjamin Franklin, Professor Boyd Watkins, Albert Churchward, they all gave you eyewitness accounts, you know, of the world order in the generation. Dr. Albert Churchward, eyewitness account, gives you a grim description of what happened to the black presence in Europe. He stated that they became extinct. I hope we know what that means. That means exterminated by 1912. 1912 is modern. So he said they did kill all of them. I can show you some more history, just like the Moi Moi. Like the rabbit hole get deep. When people be talking about they no disrespect their other history, I said, man, you don't have no history. All your so-called figures ain't do nothing but kill people. Church war, murder. Where else you want to go? We can go all Mussolini, murderers. We can go all over history. All over. And then we can get in our own history and exterminate it as well. You know? So, as I close, when we deal with J.A. Rogers, when I say it's so much stuff in history that I want our brothers and sisters to be proud of. I want us to have a proud history. Ancient civilization. The Grimaldi, a Negro race, lived in Europe as late as 12,000 years ago. 2 complete Grimaldi skeletons are in the Museum of Monaco, near Monte Carlo. Abundant traces of their culture have been unearthed in southern and central Europe. Elma, or Elam, a mighty Negro civilization of Persia, flourished about 2900 BC and is perhaps older than Egypt or Ethiopia. One of its later Negro kings, Kudur, Kudur, Kanuta, or Nakunta, or Nakuna, Nakunta, conquered Chaldea and Babylon and brought back to his capital, Susa, rich treasures, among which was the famous statue of the goddess Nana. Later, it became the capital of Cyrus, the great, the capital of Cyrus, the Great, and Darius. Susa is the Shushan of the Bible. I hope y'all hearing this. Susa is the Shushan of the Bible, where Esther, the Jewish, sought the favor of King Ashurus of Persia and Ethiopia. Cepheus, a Negro, built the Great Pyramid, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It was 451 feet high, 2 million blocks of granite, each 2.5 tons, covering 13 acres. Took 100,000 men 30 years to build. It was completed in 3730 BC. Tell them to fact check all this rich history back in these times. That's why I said we digress, brothers and sisters. There were at least 18 Ethiopian or unmixed Negro rulers of ancient Egypt, the best known which is Pinakhi, Piankhi, leaving his country in Central Africa. Pinakhi or Pinakhi conquered all Egypt to the mouth of the Nile in 750 BC. Look at this rich history, brothers and sisters. The Ganges, the Ganes, the sacred river of India, is named after an Ethiopian king of that name who conquered Asia as far as the river. Man. Illiteracy and intellect. The people of South Europe, including Italy, and most of those of Eastern Europe, including Russia, are more illiterate than Negroes of the United States. In 70 years, Negro illiteracy has fallen off about 80%. In 1870, it was 82%. In 1930, 16.3. Afro-American illiteracy is 3 times higher than the white one. Nevertheless, when certain states are matched against certain others, there are surprising comparisons. For instance, the Negroes of California, Minnesota, New York, Nevada, South Dakota, Oregon, Washington are less illiterate than native whites of white parentage in Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, New Mexico, New York, Minnesota, Oregon. Negroes of these 7 states are less illiterate by 100 to 400% than the foreign-born, no disrespect, I'm just reading the history, whites of all the states, save one. In the United States Army intelligence test during World War I, the Negroes of Pennsylvania, New York, Illinois, and Ohio led the whites of Mississippi, Kentucky, Arkansas, and Georgia by from 1 to 7%. You see, 2 centuries ago, the Negroes of South Africa and North European both practiced a form of cannibalism that was strikingly similar. Of the vital organs of the slain foes, the Negroes made a moody or a charm against evil. The Europeans would roast or dry the bodies of the hanged criminals. You see all this stuff through history. Exploration. Estevanco. It's for all our children. They got to write this down. We need to make a shirt with Estevanco on there. A Negro from Morocco was one of a party of 4 to cross the Northern American continent in 1536 for the first time. The journey took 9 years. In 1539, he headed an expedition that discovered where? Arizona and New Mexico. And they had a damn park out here talking about some Christopher Columbus Park. And they don't even tell this history. This is the history of Arizona. Amor, this is what everybody, Amor, Estevanco, a Negro from Morocco. What did he do? He discovered Arizona. I mean, this is prophetic. This is prophetic. And New Mexico. Estevanco's travel served to open up the southwestern and the states west of Florida, as far as the Pacific. The founder of the city of Chicago was who? Baptiste Point de Sable, a Negro in 1779. They got the statue. I took a picture in front of him. I got the picture in front. This is what I be telling people. I said, look at the history. Don't let nobody tell you no different. Tipo Tip, a Negro trader in slaves and ivory from Zanzibar, East Africa, was the first civilized man to penetrate the center of Africa. To penetrate the center of Africa. He explored territory nearly as large as the United States. We almost done. Yep, got a few more minutes. Stanley, Wiseman, Cameroon, and other white explorers followed his path. He died in 1905, very rich. Brothers and sisters, for 2,234 years, human beings has been trying to reach the top of the world. Thousands of lives, millions of dollars were lost in the attempt. On April 6, 1909, write this stuff down. Matthew Henson, y'all should have the book. I sent it to y'all. Matthew Henson, a New York Negro, was the first of a party of 6 to do so. He is now, in 1943, the only human being alive to have done that. The first Arctic explorer was Pytheas, a Greek who perished in the attempt in 325 BC. We just showing you history. So next month, when so-called Black history come down, we not finna come with all that slave history. We gonna come with all history. When our people come down with some happy Kwanzaa, man, listen, if we said we ain't gonna deal with that, we ain't gonna deal with no misnomer Black holidays that Ron Karenga came up. That was a COINTELPRO. Ron Karenga, he tortured misnomer Black women. He tortured people. None of that stuff that he did is original. But people be like, well, oh well. No, oh well. We're not dealing with nobody that's gonna do harm to our people. None. I don't care what color you are. That ain't what we're talking about. You see, this is what needs to be told. When people say, oh, we ain't gonna do this, but we're gonna do this. Oh, so this better. Why? Because there's a misnomer blackface on it. But what's attached to the misnomer blackface? The same atrocity as is to the other face. Man, go have a seat. Go have a seat. Look at the psychosis of that, my brothers and sisters. Science and invention. Jane Ernest Metliser, a Dutch West Indian Negro living in Lynn, Massachusetts, invented the first machine for sewing. All our women should know this. Sewing the soles of the shoes to the upper. This invention, which was 11 years in the making, revolutionized the industry and gave shoe supremacy to the United States. It made several millions, one of whom left $4 million to Harvard University. You know, George Washington Carver, Tuskegee Institute, one of the world's greatest agricultural chemists, awarded the Roosevelt Medal, 1939, distinguished service in the field of science. Remember what he did with the peanut? Extracted 285 products. Sweet potato, he extracted 118. Carver was born a slave. You see, do y'all know what eunuchs were in the biblical scriptures? Anybody?
Yeah.
Huh? Y'all know what they did to them? Y'all know what they... Okay. So, see, a lot of stuff, man, we just have to have a real conversation. You know, and what they did, you know, they had him, he was born a slave, but Thomas Edison once offered him a large salary to take charge of the Edison laboratories. But Carver refused in order to continue the work he had begun with Booker T. Washington at the Tuskegee Institution. Jews in Ethiopia. The Mohammedans believed that Moses was a black man. The Bible, the Quran says so. God told Moses to put his hand into his bosom. The Quran says that it came out white. The commentators declared that Moses' hand could not have been white before, and that the miracle Jehovah, aka Yahweh, intended was making the black skin white and that turning it black again. The Septuagint, or the Greek Bible, agrees with the Quran. So you can't get mad at me when people be just making up stuff. I say, well, let's deal with with older teachers to see what it say. The characters of the Bible are largely Negroes. The Jews were slaves to the Egyptians for nearly 430 years. Only 70 Jews went to Egypt with Jacob. The Bible says that 600,000 men left with Moses, which according to Husoffer meant a total of 3,154,000 with women and children. And for this large number to have left mixing with the Egyptians who were black must have taken place on a vast scale. So about 12 million Negroes were brought to the New World. So you got to imagine how much of their original color and culture later would take with them, you know, they should return to Africa. And then you realize how much of the original so-called Jew remained in only those 70 Jews after those centuries. So when you start doing your research, the writer Tacitus, which is the Roman historian of 90 AD, he says, and I quote, that the Romans of this day popularly believed that the Jews, which then abandoned Europe, came from Ethiopia. The land of the blacks. The present white color of the European and the American Jew is very likely due to the same cause as their fair skin and straight hair of large numbers. of Negroes. The Bible classes the Ethiopian and the Jew together. Are ye not as the children of Ethiopia unto me, O children of Israel, says the Lord? Chaldea, the land in which the Jews originated, was also a Negro land. Hence Abraham might also have been black. No disrespect. Why? Because the Phalashas, or the Negro Jews of Ethiopia, led by Queen Judith, put the line of Solomon and Queen of Sheba off the throne of Ethiopia in 937 AD and ruled for 40 years. The Phalashas assert that they are the original Jews. They called themselves the Beta Israel, or the chosen people. You can't get mad at what I'm saying. I mean, we can deal with this all over, but I just wanted to show you things. Let me deal with religion and we out of here. The oldest and most noted statue in the world bears the face of a Negro. It's the Sphinx of Giza, which was worshipped as Horus, Harmachis, and sun god of the light and life. It was erected about 5000 BC. The devil, which is now depicted as black, was once portrayed as white. And when the black man dominated the planet, he painted the forces of evil white. Ask any historian, they'll tell you the truth. When the whites came into power, no disrespect, they shifted the color. But as late as 1500, the Ethiopians still depicted their gods and heroes black, and their devils and villains white. Father Ferdinand, a Catholic missionary who worked amongst them at the time, says, and I quote, they paint Christ, the Blessed Virgin, and other saints in black form, and devils and wicked men white. Thus Christ and his apostles are black, and Judas white, Annas, Caiaphas, Pilate, Herod, and the Jews are white, while Michael is black and the devil white. Nearly all of the ancient gods of the Old and the New World were black and had woolly hair. Buckley says, from the woolly texture of the hair, I am inclined to assign to the Buddha of India, the Fui of China, the Aksa of the Japan, and the Quetzalcoatl of Mexicans. I might be pronouncing it wrong. Somebody can pronunciate that for me. It's Quetzal, Quetzalcoatl, or Quetzalcoatl. It's Quetzal. Cota. Yeah. Yep. Of the Mexicans. The same, and indeed an African, or rather a Nubian origin. In the Bible, God of the Ancient of the Days is described as having hair like the pure wool. The earliest statues of the Virgin Mary and Christ in Europe, as far north as Russia, were black and Negroid. The Bible really originated in ancient Egypt, where the population, according to Herodotus and Aristotle, was black. Here, the Jews received almost all of their early culture. Professor Breasted, leading Egyptologist, says, and I quote, the ripe social and moral development of mankind in the Nile Valley, which is 3,000 years older than that of the Hebrews, contribute essentially the formation of Hebrew literature. Our moral heritage, therefore, derives from a wider human past, erroneously older than the Hebrews, and it has come to us rather through the Hebrews than from them. Psalms that read like those of the Bible were written by a pharaoh, Amnapus the sixth, better known as Akhenaten, the heretic king, 1300 BC, or more than 400 years before David was born. Family, Akhenaten was the father of Tukhenaten, was extremely Negro in type. He is called the most remarkable of the pharaohs. Ethiopians, that is Negroes, gave the world the first idea of the right and wrong, and thus laid the basis of religion and all of the true culture and civilization. The earliest exposition of this yet found is the so-called Memphite drama, which is known only through a copy on a slab of bath salt made by order of an Ethiopian king in 700 BC. But I got it. That's why I be saying I have everything that any book talk about. I have it for my people. So even the celestial saint of Germany, the Saint Maurice, he a pure Negro. Research this. While in command, a Roman legion in Gaul, Switzerland, in 287 AD, refused to attack the Christians, who ordered to do so by the emperor Maximian Hercules, for which he was killed. His picture is in many German cathedrals and museums, sometimes with the German eagle on his head. Y'all been seen it a plethora of times. Recent pictures of Hitler nearly 1700 years later shows Hitler also with the same emblem on his head. Research what I started showing you, and I started showing you how they try to whitewash your figures in history. I'm telling you. So I don't want to go no further, man. It's in 100 amazing facts about the Negro. I just wanted to give a little history today and just show you the greatness of what we have done, you know, and it ain't too much more we can say about our history. You know, we have to start showing the great things that we have done all across the board and start doing some things together and loving on each other and not letting nobody use religion or nothing to separate us, because we didn't use religion to separate us. We used it to bring us together. We know who we are as Moors. So with that, I say gratitude for everybody's time, man. And thank everybody for stepping in and running the Audible. And with that, I say Islam. And like I said, every time after I do a teaching, I'm always going to offer a book. And today, the book I'm offering, you can go on Amazon and see how much this book costs. Matter of fact, I'll do it for you to tell you how much it costs, so you can see the value of what you're able to get today. It's called Criminalizing a Race. And let's see how much this book costs on Amazon still. So here it is. This book on Amazon right now is $1,322. I'm going to always close my teachings out and showing you how much these books and stuff cost. And that's why a lot of our people are not introduced to the science or have no idea what I'll be talking about or try to misrepresent something. But then what you'll be talking about is in the wisdom with the people that you'll be talking about. It's nothing hidden. It's just some of us that's introduced to the wisdom that's made it available for us. And so I give honor to my brothers in our tribe for you know, digging in science and putting our companies together to make these books available for people, PDF or print it and bind it for a fraction of the price. And so today, if you want this PDF, and the thing I tell people, why would you want to pay all that money for some paper? You should want the wisdom. And if you know some brothers that got the wisdom that you can get it printed and bind it, or get the PDF and have it in travel and print the book whenever you want to, I think that should be something that should spark something in your brain. So today I'm offering this for a small donation to anybody that want to get this book. You can get this PDF for a small donation, $25. I even give you a bonus, you know, and that's what I'm offering to people. I don't want to charge nobody much today for this when I'm in ministry, because I want you to have it. But after ministry is over, that's it. You know, after ministry is over, that's it. So you see the value of this book. It's called Criminalizing a Race. It's $1,322 on Amazon. You see what I offered you to get this at the digital download for you can have. You want to know what this is all about. So I love y'all, man. Gratitude. I don't think nobody have nothing else. If they do, please speak up. If not, I'm going to do our benediction and we out of here. May the benediction of Allah be upon thee and thine always, as thou should strive to be a credit to Allah. Make haste to bestow thy acts of love upon all our brothers and sisters, and we all should do our best to shun all evil. Remember to take suckle of the breast of knowledge, wisdom, fortitude, charity, love, and all standing, that we all might nourish the souls of all men. Let the truth be the shield and the manifest battle of falsehood. Knows that we need not to pick the gates to the paradise by means of petty or criminal theft. For behold, the key to salvation already rests within our own hands. And yes, even though a portion of our nature is weakness, instability, inconstancy, there is still the greater part of our nature that is divine. May Allah, may Buddha, may Yahweh, Muhammad, etc., whatever name that you give praise, may it guide you, may it preserve you, may it give you everlasting peace. Amen. Shalom alaikum. Aya Asha Aya. Peace, peace, peace. El Rahman. Yahat. Ya Muhammad. Ashe. Peace, 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 peace. And gratitude for everybody time, man. I love y'all, man. Peace and love. Peace.